ish. We get it. We're live. How you
Yeah.
doing,
All
Matt?
right. Good. Just getting back from a dog walk, and I realize I'm gonna get hot in a second because I've got layers, many layers.
Let's
So how
talk
you
about
doing?
those layers. I'm doing great. In fact, I may have bike shed a little bit buying a coat for the rain because I've never really had one. I've always had like that shell, And I feel like I'm so
Hmm.
sorry for forgetting that I was in New York last week, but I feel like this is one of those topics where
Mm.
you and I could have gone deep before I went and spent money on a
Hmm.
jacket. But what I had was similar to you. I was using layers. I had like one of those outer
Hmm.
shells that gets rid of the rain, and it's
Yeah.
one of those ones where your team creates a thing. And I was involved in helping make the logo, so I really like the jacket. There was emotional attachment, I think is what I'm
Right.
trying to say here, without necessarily realizing that when you pack, it's like much easier to have something thinner and lighter that you can just store away in your
Yeah.
bag when it's hot, that kind of thing. So I've been wearing this with like, I don't know, 4 layers for years, since
Yeah.
2016. It was kind of like,
Yeah.
if it rains, this is what I wear. I'll just wear like 2 sweaters underneath or something like that. And finally, I decided to say enough was enough. I think the reason I looked at this is because there's someone on our team who's like a minimalist and they travel with one bag. And I'm not there yet, but I'd love to be able to
Jason, is
travel
this
with.
Jason? Is
It's
this
not. Well,
Jason?
I think Jason
Oh.
is like that. It's not. It's another
Yeah.
person. But yeah,
Okay.
maybe I should ask Jason as well. But that was the impetus. I figured I'd look into something like that,
Hmm.
and I ended up at Arc'teryx, and I didn't realize clothing had a lifetime warranty, and I think
Mm.
that's how they got me, is that you could actually get a lifetime warranty on clothing. This is amazing. Then of course you're
Mm.
doing the
Mm.
calculus, and yeah, what do you call it, like justifying your purchase kind of thing. So I thought
Hmm.
I was
Hmm.
in good hands. All this to say, I think if you spend good money on a good jacket, you'll be much happier. Is what I learned. That was a lesson to me,
Hmm.
and I'm
Hmm.
super super happy. The main thing is it's got another pocket, which the main complaint I had is that I only had 2 pockets, and it's all about pockets for me. I need more
Yeah.
pockets.
Yeah. Yeah. I you know, the jacket before my current, so I also have just the range shell that I
Right,
put
right.
over many layers, and I always
Yep.
have lots of layers. And I had a North Face, um I don't know, Mountain Light, I think was the model, and I bought this
Right.
thing 20 plus years ago, more 30 years ago.
Nice.
I bought it was when I was still living in New York,
Right.
and so that's must be like 95 or so. Um, and it was like super expensive when I bought it. It was
Right.
a
You said North
crazy
Face,
expense.
right, or
North
Patagonia?
Face, yeah,
Yeah.
North
I mean,
Face,
they're both kind of expensive, but yeah,
yeah. And uh, I bought it when I was going to Nepal the first time I went. I've gone twice,
that makes sense.
and so this was I wanted something for that trip, and that jacket ended up lasting me. It was the waterproofness started to fade after about 20 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was incredible. Um, I understand that their jackets aren't as good at it. I don't know. I'm not really sure, but I don't know.
I
Maybe
think they
they
got
are
bought
still
up by
good.
one of those like fashion companies. I forget which one it
Yeah,
is, but like they're part of like a conglomerate now, so maybe there's
yeah,
a question about it. The other thing
yeah,
is that waterproofing. I like the Gore-Tex stuff is generally microplastics, which aren't great for the
yeah.
environment. But in
Right.
my defense, and perhaps in yours, I think when you live in a rainy climate, part of
Hmm.
your a big part of your comfort is having clothing that's properly
Yeah,
made for the environment. And layers are fine, but you do end up getting, like you were saying, quite warm quite quickly,
yeah, yeah,
especially like when it's, I don't know what this is. It feels like winter's kind of fading away, but stores still have the heat cranked. Any place you go into,
hmm,
it's cranked, and you get so hot so quickly.
yeah.
That was my excuse, is that you could just don't say
And then
anything.
if it's raining
There you go.
outside, your rain protection is your outer layer, which you have to take off in order to remove other layers. So you're going to get wet.
That's right.
Yeah.
Regardless, it just
But
drips down all over your
I,
pants. Is the first thing that happens to
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. I mean, whenever I wear that rain layer, I always have the rain starts like halfway down my crotch and then down further down on my pants because it all like flows right there. And yeah,
That sounds so comfortable.
yeah. So are you saying that you've discovered an approach that does not involve lots of layers, or you're still with the lots of layers?
I think I've discovered an approach, and the thing is to have one of those shells that has just a little bit of I don't know if it's foam. I feel like it's merino wool
Hmm.
because that's in everything,
Yeah.
but some small layer of heat. and I
Yeah.
ended up just wearing that the whole time. I didn't need any sweaters or anything like that.
Mm.
It was very easy to wear around. But that's what I discovered. The main thing was
Yeah.
like you don't need to suffer all the time. You can get a coat.
Right.
They're way more expensive than a rain shell. Like a rain
Hmm.
shell, when I looked around, is about $150. If you're throwing it on top of
Hmm.
other stuff, it's not that bad at all.
Yeah.
Which is how you end up with a rain shell for many years because they're
Right.
cheap and
Right.
affordable. The other coats are quite a bit more expensive, like
Hmm.
2, 3, 4 times, depending if it's North Face or what have you. But
Hmm.
it was worth it for me. Of
Yeah.
course, the first thing I did with that pocket was put my wallet in there, and then the second thing I did was forget where I put my wallet because it's a new pocket. But I think that's a learning experience. I
Yeah.
tend to use the same pocket for like one thing goes in one pocket forever. But what are you gonna
Right.
do?
Right. No, so my sort of current rain shell again is LL Bean, um, and but it's they how on these jackets they have like the two bits of cloth come together. There's a
Right, the
seam,
seams.
and then they
Yeah,
put that like a tape over that, and so
right.
the tape is like I've got this spaghetti coming out of the jacket because all the bits of tape are falling off. And that one is only, I mean, it was definitely a fraction of the cost of that North Face one, but it was, it was an expensive jacket. And it's probably about 5 years old, 6 years old. So it's definitely a different length of time that it lasts.
Right.
Um,
That's
and
still pretty good
actually,
though.
yeah, it's right now it's sitting inside. I had to go for a walk and it's raining a little bit.
Right.
And, but the jacket's in the car and the car is with my wife and she's doing shopping. And yeah.
There you go.
So, but she's got a rain shell that has that layer, and she really likes that. Except when if it's raining on a warmer day, last thing you want to have is like this thick jacket that is your rain protection, but so you
It's
still
worth
kind of need that light rain shell.
Absolutely. And listen, when I say bike shedding, like I was looking at the ones that have vents under the arms,
Hmm.
the ones that say they're a bit more breathable. So if you're wearing a book
Right.
bag, they've got like vents or something back there. Of course, Siri found something
What did
that
she
says
find?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Well,
I think whenever I say seriously, Siri triggers.
yes.
I don't know if your phone is overly sensitive, but mine, I've got the 14 Pro, and it feels like if I'm in another room, it's listening to me, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I now also have the 14 Pro and I
Oh,
love
look
it.
at you. This has
Um,
become like the Gear We Got podcast. How
yeah.
was the
Yeah.
14 Pro?
Uh, so I recently heard that apparently Apple makes phones, at least every 4 or 5 years. So
Right.
I was finally time to upgrade from the 10s Max to the 14 Pro Max, whatever the big screen, and I
Right.
love it. It's great.
That's
Did I
fantastic. So
need
you,
it?
so you did go
Uh,
you did go for the Max this time, right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I felt like it was a bit too big for my hands. Most of the time they're way too big, but this time it's just a little bit
It
bigger.
it's like a tiny. It's barely the difference in size from the
It
10s Max is like barely noticeable.
Okay. Is it a bit smaller than the 10s Max? Because my partner had one as well, and the
I don't know. I
screen's
mean, I
definitely
looked at,
bigger because
I,
there's less bezel.
yeah, the looking at the numbers, they were definitely different, width and height and
Right.
depth. I don't remember which one was bigger or smaller, but when you had them next to each other, it's like, oh, they're about the same.
That's kind
And
of the conclusion she came to. It's
yeah,
just in terms of like day-to-day use of use, that kind of thing.
yeah,
It's basically the same.
and it's like the plus or minus is like the thickness of your whatever case you choose, and if you
Right.
choose a case.
Right. Are you
I
case or no case person?
I was not. I was when I got the 10. I was
Hmm.
thinking I don't need a case. This is
Right.
crazy. Um, that happened to be the one Apple device that I, for some reason, did not get Apple Care on,
Right.
and then I dropped it,
Yeah,
and
I'm
uh,
laughing
and
because I
the
know where this is going. Yeah.
and the front was fine. The front, no problem. But the back glass shattered,
Oh shoot.
and and if you don't have Apple Care, replacing the 10's glass was more expensive than like the rest of the phone.
Oh, that
So I could
reminds me. I
have,
did activate my Apple Care. Holy moly.
yeah. And it was I seem to remember when it happened, like 4 years ago. Um, it was going to cost like $1,000 just to replace the glass. So this one has AppleCare on it.
That's rough.
Yeah.
So for me, going up phones, I went from the 13 Pro to the 14. I don't know. I think I was a little bit bored the past couple of years. So I decided to get a new phone. I don't know, anything to keep stuff going. But the biggest thing I noticed was the difference in the camera. Now, I took some raw shots and things like that. But that wide lens, for me at least, has been a big plus.
Yeah, I love. I mean, I love all the. What's the difference? I mean, I guess one of the big differences is the always on screen is
right.
Pretty cool. And I didn't think that would be really interesting, but it turns out it is really interesting seeing it on. Although now it's not on. Interesting. That might be. I think it's on low power mode because it's only 15%. Because for some reason it didn't charge last night. I don't know why.
Interesting. I do notice it stays charged longer, like quite a bit longer. It was a big increase for me. So I'm wondering if maybe the screen takes less power. I did turn off the always on display. I felt like I've got those previews for text and stuff that come up, and I felt like with it on, people could gawk at it. But I don't leave the house, so this isn't really a concern. But I don't know. The security squirrel in me started thinking maybe this is a problem.
I have the always on turned on, but I have the wallpaper turned off, so you can have it always on without the wallpaper.
Okay.
I don't know. It feels like that should.
Nice.
It would take me less power to. I don't know.
To display a whole wallpaper. Yeah. So you're thinking that if you don't need
to think about how much effort it would be to draw a bunch of numbers versus draw a bunch of numbers, and for me to draw a picture, that would take a lot more. So
it's definitely a lot more. I mean, that makes sense. That tracks.
Because it's a bunch of little humans in there, right? Yeah.
Is it OLED that you're? I think you're. I'm trying to think of your hypothesis here that they don't need to illuminate the black pixels, so that it should be less power.
Yeah, but is it?
Right.
I don't know.
No, I don't know. Let's find out. Let's do a test.
Yeah, I seem to remember when that was like a big topic. It turned out to be the black pixels use as much power as the white pixels, but that was an older phone. I don't know if that's the case now.
Gotcha. I see we have a commenter this week. It looks like a friend of mine. One thing I will say that I got them interested in the phone via as well, like the feature. You know how product managers have features to sell stuff. The one feature for me, at least, was that cinema camera in vertical mode is surprisingly compelling. It looks like, I'm not going to say it looks filmic, which is, I don't know if that's a word or not.
Yeah.
But it has that film feel to it. And it's just close enough. It's like portrait mode for movies. And it does a really good job of focusing on the object that you want to be focused on, basically. You can tap and stuff like that as it's going, but I do find it takes really good video, basically, which is a big surprise to me.
Yeah. One thing that's perhaps surprising for me is that I haven't really played around with the camera much. Since I mean, I got it, I don't know, 5 or 6 days ago, and I just haven't thought about it.
Gotcha. So the only one problem I have with the camera is it's got this auto detect mode where it will swap lenses on the fly. And I'm that person on the plane who has to have the window seat because he's taking photos from the plane of all the stuff, and it will focus on the window a lot of times. So while I was in New York, I don't have a lot of tech friends, but one of them happens to work at Apple, and they happen to be in New York at the same time. So I was complaining to him about it, and he said, like, there's you can turn that off. It's right in the camera settings just to turn off the auto lens detect. But that was my only complaint. He was saying that the wide angle lens is different in a way that some people were complaining about, but like honestly, it's all pluses for me. That was the only thing, is that like auto detect macro mode or something like that it's doing. I need to turn off because I'm often taking photos like through things or like around. I like to have blurry foreground things. I don't know. It makes me feel like there's more layers to the image. But that was the only real complaint that I've got. Otherwise, it's been phenomenal. And I've got the leather case on it. But I don't know, Datadog purple or whatever. But just
I ended up getting the. I don't know. It's a cheap case. It's Smartish.
Smartish.
Yeah. It's
okay.
I think I've actually had another case from them before, and it's flexible, and I don't know. It's $20. Yeah, I guess so.
And you said it didn't charge. Are you wirelessly charging or cable charging? What's your?
I was I have a pad that has 2 spots for phones and 2 AirPods and a watch, and I must not have placed it right
Oh, like
last
the
night.
chi locating thing. Yeah,
Hmm.
I hear you. I do
Um,
the same thing, but the case
and I
sometimes can
guess,
be involved in that. That's why I was asking. Like
mm,
sometimes the case can
yeah.
like give you like too much room or
Well,
something.
it's charged fine than other nights, so it was
Okay,
just last night.
maybe just too tired.
And I guess there's the magnetic like puck thing that you can get that is
Yep,
always the right
they
place.
call it MagSafe, which seems wrong because I feel like MagSafe is something completely different. But
Yeah, I mean it
I'm old school.
unlike MagSafe, this seems to be like a useful feature versus MagSafe on the laptop,
On the
which
new
is
one.
stupid.
I do like it and also not like it, but I understand why they do it. The laptop, the phone one, I think the main feature people were complaining about with the let's pretend for a moment that Apple's going to remove a port in order to adhere to a
Mhm.
European
Mhm.
law, and you've only
Mhm.
got no ports. So
Mhm.
you've only got
Yeah,
magnetic charging. The first complaint people are going to have is I can't talk on my phone while it's charging. And the nice thing about
mhm.
that little puck is it can actually attach to the phone
Yeah,
while you're talking to
yeah,
somebody. So
yeah,
I get that,
yeah. I
but
mean, in
it
fact, I
just
was thinking of
it
getting one
smells
of
like
those
they're going
like
to do it right.
batteries.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking of
Right.
getting those batteries that like snap on. Um,
Yeah, I ended up going the opposite way. I don't know if I've ever showed you this. This is like show us or gear stuff. This is like one of those massive Anker batteries. It's
mhm.
about the size of the phone. It's way more heavy,
Right.
but it's I think it's 10,000 milliamp hours. It's
Yeah,
just ridiculous. And I get stopped going through security every time because it's big battery.
yeah. I seem to remember um I had a battery that would slip onto uh the what was it? The Compact made a phone
Okay, today
back
I
when
learned.
Compact was a company.
Yeah,
Um and it was like I something before the iPod, before the iPhone,
oh, was it
it
the
was an
iPack?
iPack.
I may
iPack.
have heard of this, man. You're
Um
digging up things from the past here.
and that had a little sleeve that went over it,
Oh,
and was a battery, and
I see it right here. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
it was
putting this in
great.
the show notes. This is amazing. So was this WinCE? It looks like a Windows CE phone. It's got. Oh yeah,
Yes,
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
yeah, all the iPack, and then I also had the
I had a Moto Q, which is
AudioVox.
what this looks like.
There was
Oh,
there was a
AudioVox. Wow.
phone from AudioVox, and it was a little. I mean, the phone had to be like 3 inches by inch and a half or 2 inches, with a
Wow.
little screen and just the number pad, and it was probably the best phone
Right.
I've ever had. Phone with the addition of like email and texting and that type of stuff.
Okay.
Um, I mean, it can't do, a millionth of the things that the iPhone does, but it was for just like contacting people and responding to or seeing that an email arrived. I mean, that was amazing. I had that when I was still when I was still working at Microsoft, and it was incredible, incredible.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. I feel like we've gone away from phones that can do other things to like portable
Yeah,
computers that can also run some sort of
yeah,
phone app. Is where we are at this point in time. And yeah, I
yeah,
agree
and
that the phone function of an iPhone is it's kind of like one of those features that's just sort of there.
yeah. In fact, I think this morning I saw an article. I don't know if it's in the New York Times or Verge or one of these other news sources, that talked about uh, there's quite enough to be noticeable. A number of people that are ditching their smartphones and going to like these really dumb phones,
Right.
that is just a number pad with a small
Right.
screen, just like that AudioVox phone, and that
Right.
is a thing to try to get out of being sucked into social media all the time.
What
Um,
really made me happy when I found out about this, and maybe I'm a little bit ahead of the trend here on you. I think during
hmm,
COVID, I watched a lot of YouTube. One of them,
yeah.
it might have been about 2 years ago. One of them was talking about the phone that they overwhelmingly like is like the Motorola Razr, which I thought was fantastic
Mm,
because I really liked that phone back in the day.
yeah.
So I think there was an anniversary edition that came out as well,
Mm,
and it was like pre-sold, completely sold out because people
right.
wanted that phone that is a phone but won't there
Mm,
was talk about tracking and things like that. And listen,
right.
I get the
Right.
privacy concerns, but a lot of people just want like a simple phone for if they need to. be in touch in emergency, but they don't
Yeah.
want the social networking and stuff like that comes with it. I can understand that. That totally makes
Hmm.
sense to me.
Hmm.
Especially if you're out just walking around taking photos, like you don't want
Right.
all that other stuff with you.
Right.
Oh, you get a visitor?
Yeah. The garage door just opened, and I was making sure the dog wasn't in here or
Uh,
in the garage. And
Oh yeah, the dogs can sometimes open up garage doors. That happens.
yeah. My wife
Walk
is
number
pulling
two.
up in the car. Uh,
uh, so one of the things that I thought about in terms of getting rid of devices and stuff like that is I really did want that the watch to sort of be that device while I'm out, and it's got a
mm,
cell phone number, so I think it can
right.
do some weird thing where like if you call
Right.
my number, it will call my watch kind of thing. But I
Right.
I do feel like I need to leave the phone at home sometimes just to
Yeah.
get out and enjoy the world, that kind of thing, without
Yeah.
having it there. And so
My
far,
wife
so good.
relies on her watch as the phone all the time.
Right,
She's
right.
and it's the watch is pretty good at that, but
Good.
sometimes, I mean, if there's going to be a problem with the reception, it's going to be on the watch versus the phone.
That makes
And
sense. Smaller antenna.
sometimes she won't get a message on her watch
Oh,
till you know hours later. And so that's if we're trying to reach each other, she's like, "Oh, I left my phone at home." Yeah, I know, because I couldn't reach you.
one of the things that we can't seem to get worked out, and this is maybe I just need to read the manual, but we can't get the walkie-talkie to work out any longer. It consistently
Mm,
says that one of us is unavailable, which is very odd. So I feel like there's some setting that we need to go through and figure out. But back in the day, we thought
yeah,
the walkie-talkie would be great because otherwise we're just walking around an admittedly small
yeah.
apartment yelling at each other. I'm sure our neighbors hate it. It's like, can you get this for me, or did you see
Right,
this?
right.
Standard stuff. The
Yeah,
walkie-talkie is supposed to do that.
I think we did use the walkie-talkie a lot for a while. We
Okay.
don't. I've also noticed recently, the finding my phone from my watch or vice versa.
Right.
Um, in the last, I mean, at the beginning, that worked flawlessly every single time.
Okay.
And more often recently, it seems to not, oh, your watch is offline or something like that. Like,
Oh
what?
no, that's not good.
Yeah. So, yeah.
The other thing I noticed is that like it tells me when I've forgotten things all the time now. So
Mm,
I brought a
mm,
spare phone with me this trip, which again, if I'm cutting down, like I didn't use the spare phone at all.
mm.
But every time I left the hotel room, it would let me know, hey, by the way, you
Yeah.
forgot your phone.
Yeah.
Presumably, like this is your only phone, you shouldn't have left it. Go grab
Right.
it, kind of thing.
Right.
And then the first thing I did was set it to a trusted location, and that was the first thing the person at Apple said, like, don't do that. Then what if you actually forget it in the hotel? Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
there for a reason. You're better off dismissing it. But I didn't even realize that you could say dismiss or what have you. But I hadn't had to use Find My iPhone or watch, but I had used it for the
Trusted location.
AirPods. Yeah,
I didn't know
so you
about
can get like
trusted location.
let's assume you've got a cabin or something that's like that
Right.
makes sense. So maybe you have multiple dwellings. I definitely
Yeah.
only
Oh,
have
yeah.
one.
Yeah. We all
But
do.
in my case, yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely not a trusted location. In the middle of New York, I
Well,
think it was in like Garment District or something. No,
yeah.
don't trust this.
Well, I have to almost every time I walk the dog, I go
Right.
about 400 yards up the hill, and I get a message from Find My Devices or whatever saying you've left your iPad at whatever my address is. It's like, yeah, I know. Cancel.
Yeah,
Click
or like
the
it's
button.
11 things, like all the stuff that you
Yeah.
own, including things that you haven't used. You're just
Like,
like
yeah, I
had a
know.
phone charged.
So I can I obviously haven't set my home as a trusted location.
I think so. Again, no, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a couple things. You have to set yourself to me in your contact list, which was a whole other thing, and then that me
Hmm.
record in your contacts has to have an address. And then I think
Oh,
there's a couple things that happen. Uh, I
yeah,
believe this is what I initially did. It's been a minute
yeah,
since I went in there and configured
yeah,
that. But the other, like the second location, I was not aware of.
yeah. The thing I hate about I guess Find My in general, and then the air tags specifically,
Right.
is I hate that only the device that it's been paired, or the account it's been paired with, can
Hmm.
do the Find My, or
Oh, I see what you're saying.
like,
Right.
I mean, it makes sense if I was single, but I got a spouse, and so if
There's a
I
lot of
want to
brain
find
power
her,
just sitting over here,
yeah,
yeah, unused.
and I can't find my keys. I mean, I can find my keys, but I can't find her keys. And
Interesting.
the
Listen,
iPads
I
are
can also see the reverse of this being dangerous, right? Like
sure,
in terms
sure. I
of
mean,
like if you're not married or something, I don't know.
right, yeah, but if everybody's in the same family, like we're
Right.
sharing the same that, and and both people say yes, share, then I should be able to find like the TV remote because it's an Apple,
Right.
but because the TV remote is, I didn't want to pair it with my phone because then Tony can't find it.
Right.
Um, and or I wanted to, so I ended up pairing it with the iPads that are all mounted on the walls in the house. They're on a different account,
Gotcha.
which is in my family, but uh, and so they're paired to that so that we could both find it.
Mm.
But the problem is that beeping only lasts for a few seconds, and the iPads are fixed to the wall. So you press the button and you rush over to the where you think it is, and listen, oh, I missed it. Run back to the wall, tap the button, run back over to the living room to see where it. Okay, I think I hear it. Oh, it stopped. Run back and
This feels like a job for your minion. Can't you get your minion involved in this, like the finder?
yeah, that sounds pretty good.
That the utility account is a good wrinkle there. I like that because we do have a family account. We've
Mm-hmm.
also sought the same thing. In fact, the first time that we had AirTags, when we left the house, it said someone else is walking with you. Like, is it a security problem? That kind of thing. Which I get it. I totally get it.
It's great
However,
idea. Yeah,
you're right. Like in my house, if I want to find something of theirs or they want to find something of
yeah,
mine, it's totally a good use
right.
case. We probably should have a
Yeah,
shared account, just in case.
yeah. And I've seen a few videos about how to um, modify the AirTag to remove the speaker, so that if you
Oh,
want to put your AirTag in your car
right,
because you actually want to track your car.
right.
This is, I mean, it's not for bad people that want to. Well, I guess I don't know.
It could be.
It's
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
That's what I
at
keep
least
forgetting. I keep forgetting about
yeah,
the like attack vector here. So I always get
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So you
So
can like disable it, maybe? Like, is it
yeah,
just
you
cut
have
the
to
wireless
like
way?
use. I mean, it's you run the risk of partially breaking it and like needing duct tape to put it back together. But basically, there's like a cover, like a rubbery
Okay.
cover. Do I have my keys now? Yeah, a rubbery cover over it. So pull that off, and then the two halves of the shell are
Right.
held together by these three little pins that
Okay.
kind of catch on like that.
Gotcha.
And so the idea is you need to get in there and push that down so they can slide it off. But it's in behind like a rubbery seal, so you got to use like an X-Acto knife to like push through and pull
Right.
it down, and then you can pop it off.
Right.
So
Right.
there's a good chance that you're going to break it.
Right.
But that's a way that you can, then it's just a matter of like there's one little piece that like just pops off, and that's the speaker. And now the your phone might say there's something following you, but you won't be able
Right.
to find it. So the
Gotcha.
criminal who has stolen your car will say there's something following you. There's an AirPod, yeah, but he won't be able to find it because there's no beeping.
Ah, gotcha.
Of course, 2 years later, when your battery is dead, you won't be able to remember where it is and you won't be able to find it either. So,
I'd not thought about putting an AirTag in the car, but now that you've mentioned it, I'm like, that's a
because I
pretty
mean,
easy
like,
win.
yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm not like tracking my wife. Right? I mean, when the car goes somewhere, it would just be nice to know, is the car like, if I see the car is in some weird place, is one of us with it? And if not,
Right.
well, that's maybe a
Then
problem.
there's a problem.
Yeah.
The car has left the garage while you're both out
And,
doing something.
and the Volvo will show us where it is right now. I mean, but only when
Really?
it's stopped. So
Ah,
if
okay.
it's moving, it won't show you where it is.
So did it come with like a cell plan or is it
Yeah.
GPRS? How does it do that? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's well, comes with, I mean, it comes with the
Like the option.
capability.
Right.
It comes with the option to pay an extra subscription to AT&T for like $200 for a year.
Okay.
And then that connects, and that way you get Spotify in the car and get other things.
Do you get like an access point and stuff like that in the Volvo too?
Yeah, there's an access point
That's
in there,
pretty
and it will also do over-the-air updates to the maps and to the software
cool.
inside the car.
That is really handy. Like in the car I've got
Yeah.
now, I think I have to pay them $500 for a set of 7 DVDs or something silly that I have to load like one after another. We're right back to floppies. I looked at this thinking, you know, I never use a nav in the car. It's just a useless feature because I can't update it. It's just a mess.
Well, now the Pacific Northwest or Pacific Mid, I think, is what the area that I count as, even though it's Northwest. But I guess Canada is in there.
Okay.
They think about Canada, I guess. Yeah.
Well, there's only a little sliver that you need to care about in Canada.
Or maybe it's also Pacific North is Alaska and all that.
Gotcha.
But the update is so big that it won't go over the air, so I have to get it onto a USB stick and plug in the USB stick.
Right.
But
yeah, USB would make sense. Even I don't know. I got my car in 2016. Like it's not old, but it's definitely aging at this point in time. I feel like CarPlay is the thing that everybody wants. 3 years.
Yeah.
Not at all. But CarPlay is what everybody wants. You want CarPlay head unit somehow in the car, and I definitely don't have that.
So ours is CarPlay. Nice. But and the newer ones apparently are the Google Play heads or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
And apparently you're able to load up Apple CarPlay onto that.
Really?
I mean, the auto manufacturer has to do it, and so like Volvo and Audi, they're all saying, "Oh, well, that's coming."
Gotcha. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So presumably, it's some ARM chip, some ARM SoC that you can load whatever operating system on. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I was a little bit disappointed when Google said they were going to cancel. I think it was Android Auto for phones, basically, so you could just run the app on any phone. Because I really did enjoy that with my Samsung. I get into the car, it would pair with the Bluetooth, and once that happened, it would turn into auto mode, which I get why. Like they don't want you using your phone in the car because a lot of jurisdictions tell you not to. But it was really handy having it auto switch and have the full screen interface. So it wasn't CarPlay or Android Auto, but it was, for all intents and purposes, very similar. And yeah, Spotify would go into the car mode, that kind of thing, which is a nice big screen, so I could tell who's playing, which is pretty handy.
Right.
I miss those days.
So the problem with CarPlay that I've seen so far, I think it's a little bit different with the newest models, but you're kind of stuck with the aspect ratio and is like of a phone. It's like it is like a phone that's on the display. It might be a little bit bigger, but it's the same ratio. And so it's like that. But our display in the Volvo is almost like an iPad, almost kind of like a Tesla-esque display that's
more
built
vertical
into the dashboard. More vertical. And so you end up with, it says CarPlay, and there's that thing, and then there's the 3 other options for other things, but they all say controlled by CarPlay. So like half the screen is useless because you're using.
I thought you were going to tell me it's like cinema mode with black bars or something like that.
I think that would be better.
I guess so. Yeah, if it's got buttons that you can't touch anyway.
Can't touch, I mean, you can touch them, but they're not that useful. And then, so you could have, but if you were playing Spotify before you hooked up your phone, Spotify will still play through the car, even though you could also play Spotify through the CarPlay.
It doesn't like hand off. Okay.
And it doesn't do the handoff. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds. I wonder how close we are to having just M1 Max in a car where you just like swap them out. There's one GPIO cable or something, Thunderbolt probably, that just plugs into the back and you just swap them out, swap them in, kind of thing. Because those head units are pretty powerful.
Yeah. I remember when I was still at Microsoft, there was the whole Microsoft car product group that was like, let's get the Microsoft platform into the cars for the entertainment systems and everything. But at the same time, there was this like community group doing the Auto PC, and it was it was like the smallest possible boards that basically go into like the Shuttle, I think, was the company that made those small
Yeah,
form
I remember
factor
that.
PCs. And I guess there was a smaller one that probably the same size as the Intel NUCs,
Like
but
mini
something that would
ITX,
go
something
into,
like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
some, maybe that's a, and they were able to come up with a like a the case that, you know, basically the same size as your CD unit. It shoves into the dashboard,
right.
or some people would have it down below, and it was a full PC, and it, you know, when you start up the car and you let the car warm up, and that's the same time that the PC is booting up, and then you could do all sorts of things. I never got into that. I kept wanting to, but now, of course, with
Yeah, you're making my brain like I'm thinking Raspberry Pi. What was I thinking?
yeah,
You
I
don't
mean,
need a whole Mac
Raspberry
Mini.
Pi, right?
Yeah,
So I was
it'll
thinking
run Android
like
OS.
a,
Yeah,
but the boot time on these on the Raspberry Pi for, I mean, it could be like seconds, like 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
Depending. Yeah, you can get it down pretty
Yeah,
low. I think about 10
yeah.
seconds is as good as I've gotten it. Yeah.
Um, and so I mean that's, I mean, you're barely pulling out of the garage before, you know, and it's already up and running and can do.
Oh, okay. So this is like a quick aside, but do you do the check of your car? Like when you turn it on, you're supposed to check, right? Do you check your wheels before getting into your car? Do you check your
My wheels?
mirrors when you get
What?
in? Yeah, you're supposed to.
What do you
Oh, the
mean?
tires. You're supposed to exactly. You're supposed to check all your tires, make sure there's nothing. It's like one of those checks before you get in. So when you do your exam, I still remember this. They tell you like every time you get into the car, and of course the only time that you do it was when the instructor's with you during your exam, and then the rest of my life,
Mm,
once in a while, I'll look at something as I'm approaching it. I'll look at it, but I generally forget. There's a million things going on in my head. But wouldn't it be great if you could like the car knew you were coming, the computer would turn it
mm,
on, kind of thing, and then maybe
right.
like reminder, do your spot check. You check your wheels and
Yeah,
get
yeah.
in, and then it's booted up, kind of thing. Just some sort of
I thought you
auditory
mean like
announcement.
check the air pressure, because my car does that.
Oh, I definitely do that. Yeah, exactly. Mine does as well. We're so spoiled
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
One time though, the air sensor wasn't working, and it was
Mm,
flat actually, and it was a
oh,
problem.
okay.
You're right. We're a bit spoiled.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would have helped my mother at some point. Like, I I was fixing something on my, I mean, like fixing. I mean, like, I think I might have been putting air in the tires of my mother's car,
Okay.
and I asked her, "Where did the front of your mirror go?" And do that. Oh, I didn't know that was gone, and it's been gone for like months, I think. It's like, oh, I don't know. It might
Yeah,
still be
I
gone.
try to. I'm terrible at car maintenance stuff. That's why I
Yeah,
got
yeah,
a nicer car, so like I could take it in for maintenance
yeah.
and things like
I
that.
mean,
And of
like,
course, once that went away, yeah,
yeah. I mean, now I remember with my the Saab 900 I had. I mean, I'd have to change the oil every, I don't know, 3 months, and with this, the Volvo, it's the oil gets changed when it goes into service once a year,
right.
and
Someone takes care of it. I think
yeah,
that's where the auto manufacturers or the dealers at least are going is
mm,
they want that guaranteed revenue, right? They want that
right,
subscription
right,
service. The same way licensing for software is now like the
yeah,
month or yearly kind of thing. You
yeah,
want that recurring that flywheel, right? You want it running. You
yeah,
want to have people who are in the queue to be part of the
right,
paid offering, and then the people who are
right,
aging out so that you can sell them new cars. You get more
hmm,
information about
hmm,
your clients. Like totally get why they're doing it. Also, I'm just really lazy, and it just makes it easy for me.
yeah, yeah,
Software
yeah,
sales. So I mentioned the Mac Minis a little bit, but apparently there are new chips. There's M2 Pro
mm,
and M2
yeah.
Max. That's all I know, though. Did you catch a whiff of this news, or are you as
Yeah, I mean,
did you
and I
get as
seem to
high?
remember like the idea, what people assumed M2 was going to mean when, you know, when it was going to come in like a year's
Right,
time. So a year ago or 2 years ago, people thought, oh well, the M2 is just going to be like two M1s, bump,
right,
and that's not the way it's turned out. It's like, well, there's two more cores, or four more cores, or something like that. On the
right.
GPU, it's like a crazy number more cores. And I see the MacBook Pro, like my MacBook Pro is 64 gigs of memory and 4 terabyte
Right,
disk drive, because that's a maxed out machine.
right.
Um, but now the maxed out one is, I think it'll take an 8 terabyte disk, which is awesome.
That is awesome.
And 90, whatever, 92, 96 gigabytes of RAM.
Gigabytes.
Holy
Wow, that
crap.
is
Gigabyte. Yeah. That's,
fantastic.
I mean, I've got
I still
64. Wait,
96 gigabytes. Wow.
yeah.
The problem I've got, like Docker is supposed to solve all these issues, but the problem I have is I
Mm.
still use VMs for various reasons. I
Yeah.
like that isolation, and sometimes
Yeah.
I need a whole operating system. And you sure as heck you can do most of that in Docker, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's just easier to have a VM that you can move
Yeah.
between things.
Yeah. I mean, I use plenty of VMs. I'm using Parallels for most of it, and they're on quite often. And so having those VMs, yeah, I guess I should stop them, but then I'll do some video editing, and you end up using all that memory. And I remember videos saying, "Oh well, you'll never need more than 16 gigs." I mean, even when the MacBook Pro I have, when it came out, I was like, "Oh,
Right.
nobody needs 16 gigs." It's like, oh, nobody what?
I
You're
can get
not
Chrome
in.
up to 64 gigs, no
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
And I know people are like, no, you can't. You won't be able to see the tabs, but they're forgetting that you can have multiple windows full of tabs. I
Hmm.
can easily
Hmm.
get up to that amount. And
Yeah.
it's ridiculous to have Chrome doing this. The same thing. You can close the browser, but I
Hmm.
use it as a breadcrumb trail. I'll grab all those links later.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
pretty bad. And then
Yeah.
slap some VMs on there. They're generally about 8 GB a pop. But if
Yeah.
I assume your use case is similar to mine, that you're using Kubernetes in a VM. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
That's definitely
Yeah.
what I'm doing. Okay.
Yeah.
And
And I
then
mean, there's definitely
64 gigs I
kind
can use.
for running
Yep.
it in Docker, but
Yep.
for Docker stuff, I tend to actually use the Docker desktop, the Kubernetes that's in
Right.
Docker desktop, and that works great.
Right. I tried I think it's MicroK8s, which has its own little
Mhm.
there's like a launcher for
Yeah,
it. I forget
the
name of
whole
launcher.
VM runner, what's it called? Multipass.
Thank you. Yeah, I knew there was a
It's
sci-fi
a
joke in
Fifth
here.
Element.
I just couldn't think of the joke. That was
Multipass.
my multipass. That was my joke, my mnemonic device to get back to it. But yeah, unfortunately, I dropped the ball there. So listen, I watched, I feel like, all of the good movies on the plane on the way here. So I've got a ton of recommendations, but I got to be careful because there's just too many.
Okay.
The main one I've got would be The Asadas. It's sad. I didn't know it was sad going in. The description didn't look sad, but it's about a photographer in Tokyo who I guess it's like a coming of age kind of story. So it follows him throughout his childhood, a little bit of high school, some university, and then talking about his life as a photographer and what
Oh,
it
okay.
means to him. And then it quickly takes a U-turn when the Tohoku earthquake happened, and he goes to help out, and then he thinks about like what it means to be a photographer versus like what it means to help out people. I really, really liked it. The only problem is it's Japanese, so it's a bit hard to find, but it is on the Japanese Play Store, and it's only $3 to rent, and it's totally worth it. I won't say life-changing, but really, really good. I'll put a link in the show notes to the Play Store. It's totally worthwhile.
Wow.
And I gotta say, like the selection on airplanes these days, they had Criterion on there. They had multiple. Like I watched 4 Japanese movies. They were all tearjerkers. I was that guy looking at the window crying on the plane. And I found out my neighbor was a client too, so I was like, that Datadog guy just cried the whole trip. It was really weird. I did try to tell him like, he's watching the Letterkenny, and I'm like, oh, I think I made the wrong choice. I picked some sad movies. What do you guys do? He's watching Picard and Letterkenny, and I'm over here watching movies that made me cry the whole time. But yeah, there were a bunch. The Asadas was easily the best one.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Would highly recommend it. What about yourself? What have you been up to? What do we need to know about?
Recently we went through we finally finished the whole season of Echo 3.
Oh, okay. What's Echo 3?
Echo 3 is on Apple TV. And so the idea is it's this this husband and wife, they've just gotten married. He's in like some special forces group, and like the day after, they're called out to do some rescue in Afghanistan or somewhere there, and there's a bad situation. But everybody comes home, but that's the beginning of the thing, and then
Gotcha.
A little bit later, she's a researcher, and she has this opportunity to go to South America to do some research on this sleep drug that you find in the jungles there, and so she's gone down for that, and she's actually a scientist. Turns out she might have done some work for the CIA previously, but she's not doing that anymore. But she had done it. And her husband, being special forces and all, is like, you got to be tracked. What happens if you disappear in the jungle? And so he tries to give her like this military grade tracker. She says, "No, I do not want that. Do not put it in my bag or anything." And so when she goes out for a run, he sews it into her bag. And then
also, this is a
she's
sales
out.
pitch for air tags. I got it.
Yeah, I think so. And then they're in. It's was it? Where is it? Anyway, so they're in whatever country it is, and there's some rebels that come by, and they start harassing the women and all the others that are there, these doctors, researchers. Why are you here? And then bring all your bags. And then one of them looks at the bags and is like, "Wait, what's this chunky thing at the bottom?" Sees this military grade thing, and then they hold her hostage, and she's ended up held hostage for a long time. And it's basically them trying to rescue her. And
see, this is why you shouldn't track your stuff. They're talking to them.
Yeah.
I'm glad they've
well, at least not with anything that looks like it goes to with a soldier or military or CIA or I don't think any CIA agents are using air tags.
I mean, you never know.
Maybe.
I guess I thought I was going to talk forever. The only other thing I've been doing, which it's more of a software thing, but I'm not a fan of this whole AI art thing. Like, I've tried at home, I've tried training the system and stuff. I get that. Just in terms of like what I want to produce as an artist, it's not as fulfilling as it is to go and take photos of stuff. However, what I'm really bad at is retouching. And I'm not talking like I'll go in and change the way somebody looks and like all that liquefy and things like that. But what I do want to do is make the image look more appealing, because I generally shoot in kind of like C-Log. I shoot like low saturation, low contrast, like very kind of as much info I can get so I can fix it up later. One of the things I do is generally dodge and burn, but I'm not a great artist in terms of like traditional painting and stuff like that. So what I get wrong a lot of the time is dodge and burn. So if you want to make the dark part darker, the light part lighter, just to add a little bit more depth to an image. What I found is that there's actually, they call it AI. We'll say it's machine learning or maybe an expert system, but the first thing it does is find the outline of the form, and then it figures out where the bumps would be, like where the should be, and where it should go in the background, and it will go in and dodge and burn for you, and you can pick the mix between the two.
Oh wow!
It's slow as heck, like really, really slow, and it doesn't always, especially for me, if I'm using like a kaleidoscope or something like that, it doesn't always find the face. Or if there's too many faces, it'll get really confused. But it definitely helps me get most of the way there, because this could take me up to 3 hours generally, at least half an hour, if not 3. Like a full body dodge and burn, macro micro takes me a long time. It does most of this in 2 minutes, worst case, and then all I have to do is fill in the rest of the parts. It's kind of like a big hint. It's like a cheat, and it's fantastic. It's called Retouch for Me, which I hate because it's got the 4 is a number. It's just awful. However, it is phenomenal, and they've got a bunch of different apps. They've got one for the face, one for macro. Things for like removing the veins in the eyes, like really easy stuff. Again, not changing the prism too much. But holy heck, it's so much faster, and it will operate in bulk mode. So I can give it like an entire set, and then just tell it do all of these at 50% kind of thing. I don't want you to go all the way because it looks a bit cheesy, and it's fantastic. I played with it yesterday, and maybe it's because of the new plugin. I found myself doing a lot of shots in it, but also I found that I could do more in less time, which was the key part. When you're trying to get images, like your turnaround time for people, you want it to be fast. And I'm already late. Like these are things from like last year, sometimes July last year. I was working on like really, I've given them images already, but there are still some left. I want to get out to them, and it's fantastic. So I just played around last night. I highly recommend it. It's in American dollars, it's pretty cheap, about $80 for the time saved. If you're doing a lot of professional dodge and burn, I don't know what portion of our audience is in this area, but I think the main thing is using AI as less of the artist and more of an assistant, where there's a human in the loop. There, like that, now I can get on board. You want to suggest to me a scene in Midjourney, and then I go out and take a photo of it. Like that's pretty cool. But don't call that the entire art. For me, it's not what I want to be doing. But it was. I feel like that's, and I didn't.
I feel like that's going to be one of those tool sets that's in the Skylum, Luminar, and Neo, and
because they already do some sky replacements and stuff like that. And again, I've played with those too. Like I get that some of those tricks or tools that you're going to do are quite common.
Because I mean, sometimes the sky, you go out and you hope for a really great day, and it's just boring. It's a boring gray sky, and
Yeah,
And it would
overcast,
be,
especially where
yeah,
we live, right? Like it's just overcast
yeah,
sky, no clouds.
yeah. Um, and that was pretty cool. Yeah, I was playing around a little bit with uh so there's this email I got a few days
Okay.
ago. And it's from a company that makes a video editing tool saying, "Hey, we've seen your videos. We'd like." It's like every now and then I get these requests like, "You don't
Right.
see how often I post videos, do you? Because I don't post often. You're not wanting me to do a video about your product because it's going to take me a while if I ever get around to it."
Right.
But whenever an email comes in, just in case, I respond to it and it's like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
great." Um, and so I said, okay, well, tell me more. I'd love to find out about it.
Mhm.
and um, and so they forward a zip file that's like has a like a contract and um, some like video assets to show what a typical discussion of this is. So I look at the video and I was like, okay, well, that's
Right.
easy enough. Um, but then the contract file, it didn't. It was like this format I didn't recognize. Like that's
Okay.
a little weird. This is sketchy. Um, and it turns out it's a SCR file, which is I guess a Windows-based screen capture, or not screen capture, but was it like a screensaver?
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
it
say a
turns out this is
screensaver.
a scam.
Yeah,
And so if I'm on a Windows
it's an
system and I run it,
executable. Yeah.
it's an executable. It's like this is weird. And then I go back. I mean, like, how did I miss the fact that the email did not come from Filmora, Wondershare? So it's the
Right.
product is Filmora, and and um and you go onto
Oh wow.
Filmora's website, and there's like a page saying, if these people contact you, this is a scam. They do not work for us. And like the person that the Alice or whatever that contacted me, she's not on there, but I don't
Right.
know, it doesn't take much to change a name. Um,
Right.
and so yeah, this was totally a scam, and I could have totally fallen into it if I had a Windows machine, but the
Right.
Mac doesn't know how to deal with it. SCR. I was like, what? This is weird. And then I for some reason it didn't dawn on me that she's contacting me from some other email address, not Wondershare. And it's like that should
Right.
have like how
Yep.
many
Alarm
classes,
bells.
how many security phishing classes did I have to go through at
Yep.
Datadog, and yet I got sucked into it. But anyway, with the plus side of this is that I actually installed Filmora just to see what Filmora is about, because you can
Yeah.
download it from Filmora, not through these people.
Yeah, it's
And there's
gaining some
some,
traction, right?
yeah, except so it is definitely getting some coverage recently because there was like one of their like ambassadors or whatever for a long time has a huge number of videos about them.
Okay.
But then that company said you must remove these 3 videos because they're not good for us. And it's like, and did a DMCA or whatever takedown
Oh
request
no. Takedown.
um,
Yeah.
based based on because he had these videos up and just went from bad to worse the way that they dealt with this. Um,
Right.
and apparently, if you were on version 11 and earlier, there was a lifetime upgrade, so
Okay.
lifetime purchase of a license, and so now you would have it for the lifetime of
Right.
Filmora. With version 12, they changed that so that it's no longer lifetime. It is just the lifetime of version 11.
Oh.
And so now anybody who has paid for this lifetime
Right.
license no longer has lifetime, and they've like cut off. And now you have to, oh, you want to use more 12? Great, pay up.
Oh, this sounds like a cultural change internally.
Yeah,
Maybe they needed to make some more
and
money here.
and
So they,
yeah,
that's
I mean,
awful.
I'm sure. I mean, a lot of people probably spent looking at the license or the pricing page. It was pretty low to buy that
Right.
lifetime. So probably a lot of people did it, and they're
Yeah.
not getting their recurring revenue. So it makes sense why they did it, but they're kind of I
So the question I'd have is like, the goodwill that you create when
Mm,
giving someone a lifetime license makes me want to recommend it to you,
yeah,
that kind of thing. But when they pull it away, I
yeah,
wonder if they assume it's like, is this a negative sum game or zero sum game? You know
yeah,
what I mean? I feel like it's more negative if you say that it's going to be lifetime and then you pull
yeah.
it out from under them.
Right, right.
Not great.
Yeah,
Oh, we get
yeah.
another comment. Good to see you, Drifter Fifter.
Oh,
So you get 2 comments today. This is a record.
oh,
Oh,
why? Wow.
woo.
And I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that your mother does not go by the name of Merlin or Drifter, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
these are
Well,
not your mother.
one's a good friend. That is true.
Okay.
We've had a
Okay.
podcast with an audience. It's not just my mom. We've hit the big time.
So
Maybe
gratifying.
Filmora could
Yeah.
sponsor us and we could help them build back this goodwill. Because it
Yeah.
does to me. I know this is like towards the end of the episode, but this does feel like one of those DevRel kind of things. So
Mhm.
let's say they're like editor relations or something like that,
Yeah.
or video
Yeah.
editor relations. But it does feel like if you're trying to build your audience, a good way
Yeah.
to do it is like that lifetime license. Totally
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah.
However, a good way to like lose even more of that audience is to
Yeah.
then pull it away, and that seems like a
Yeah.
poor calculation on their part,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. But the reason I brought it up is actually it
Right.
has lots of neat tools. This version 12 has some really
Nice.
cool tools in it. Like one of the tools in there is something I saw in Adobe Premiere, which almost makes you want to use Adobe Premiere, apart from the fact that it's Adobe Premiere and it's got all
Right.
I don't want to
Yeah,
go
we know.
back to that. But one of the neat things in there is the idea that you've got a 3 minute audio track that's 3 minutes, and you've got a video that's 6 minutes or 5 minutes, and you can just
Right.
basically stretch that, and it automatically figures out what is the repeatable parts of that audio, and it just stretches the
Oh,
audio to make it a 6 minute piece of music, which is
that's really cool.
amazing. And Filmora does the same thing.
Gotcha.
So here's this lower cost piece of software that has that same feature. And then it's also got some really neat masking tools that will, automatically, content aware masking, where it's figuring out what is the mask and automatically animate that mask so that, basically green screen without the green screen. And it does it intelligently. And from the demos, it seems to work really well. I didn't actually try it because as soon as I started getting into it, I think I saw the discussion of the whole lifetime, no longer lifetime,
Right.
on the WAN show. What's his name?
Linus Tech Tips? Is that right?
Yeah,
Same people?
that's the guy.
Okay.
Yeah,
I certainly watch it. Yeah, it's just been a minute.
yeah.
I forget the title.
yeah. So he was talking about how this is kind of a sketch.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that show as well is not without some controversy,
Sure.
things that they've done, doubling down, that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I think in general, they listen to their audience, which is pretty
Yeah.
smart. And maybe Filmora could do the same. I'm looking through, like, they've even got Boris FX built in if you want to pay $21 a
yeah.
month. Like, we're definitely going down that path
Right.
where there's some AI stuff that you can, like,
Yeah.
add on top of it. But $80 for a video editor, for me at least, sounds
It's
ridiculous.
pretty good. Yeah.
I mean,
And
we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, another one of those interesting bundles that a number of people have, like I think LumaFusion on the iPad, the video editor on the
Yeah.
iPad, as well as was it ScreenFlow? They both have this add-on for it's usually like $60 a year, and that gets you all that Storyblocks offers you. So you can pay
Oh, that's pretty
Storyblocks, like $40 or $50 a month, or
Right.
it's ScreenFlow. I don't know who that is. Get ScreenFlow or LumaFusion. You have access to all the same things, and the license is very clear that you just have to use it for your videos, not that you have to use it for your videos made in ScreenFlow, but you could download it and then upload it to, your Final Cut project. And it's like this amazing. I mean, Storyblocks isn't the best. I mean, it's good enough for a lot of things. So it seems to be. It's an interesting, and so I had. I know that's the case with ScreenFlow for the last 2 or 3 years. They've had that,
Right.
And so it's a really cheap way of getting some that kind of content, video assets.
Yeah, Storyblocks looks amazing. You think that you're not going to use this stuff, but then when you go and look, like, hey, I'm in Hawaii, I need to splice in some like random helicopter video of like me
Yeah.
eating food. I'm like, Hawaii, yeah, we got you. They get a
Yeah.
ton of like good content that you can just throw in
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
I didn't use that. I was just like looking through to see what if I'm terrible at editing videos. And yeah, they had a bunch in there ready to go. I hate to
Yeah.
burst your bubble though. It does look like this is in fact my mother in the chat who's saying
Oh,
my dad says hello. So I think that's my mom. I could be wrong. Maybe it's somebody trying to like give me a
oh, you look so
screensaver
handsome today. Oh,
yeah,
that's so
exactly.
nice.
Something your mom would say, right?
Yep.
not
Yep.
the Fillmore rep who's trying to send you a screensaver.
It's not like that. Remember, we and in one of the things that we did before, we got the YouTube warning. You're
Yeah,
going to be
exactly.
removed or whatever, demonetized.
Exactly. They got it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
still can't figure out the payload for that, but whatever. It certainly got us
Yeah.
both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Listen, we get a few recommendations. I think we talked
Yeah.
about some stuff. Let's see if we can do it weekly. I will try. I think I'm certainly to blame
Yeah.
for traveling so much.
So, next week, do you have a unplanned trip to Hawaii?
I don't think so.
Okay, well that's good. That's good.
You can tell I'm so good at managing my schedule.
But do you have any
ADHD,
unplanned trips to New York? Do you have any unplanned trips to New York? No, no. Okay.
Yeah, you have to ask
I
me
think
each city, right?
So I do have some things
that I want to go to is Monotorama. Hopefully, you're going to that as well. Maybe not. But that's in like June, as far as I can tell. It's normally in June.
The only so in that time frame, like far in the future, July, I am hoping to go to that conference. Do you know about that?
It's really good. I do. In fact, the organizers are on a channel that I'm in Slack. They look like fantastic people.
That's amazing. I've gone twice before. I've spoken
family because I know it's very family oriented.
Yeah, it is. I'm not sure that the tracks really are. I think there's a track for Stella's age,
right?
And but it's also at the one of the Kalahari's. It's one that I think at Wisconsin Dells. And then, of course, if you're in Wisconsin, going to Madison is great because it's just an amazing town. Or maybe this one's in Texas. I don't know. I think the one is in Madison or in Wisconsin Dells. And so I'd really like to go to that. But in 2 weeks is it is the CNCF Security Con.
Right. That's right.
In Seattle. Yeah. And so that's going to be our first time exhibiting.
Fantastic.
And so we're excited about that. And since the whole company is coming into Seattle for, we're going to staff the booth because we're only 8 people. And we're just going to have the kind of offsite that week at an Airbnb in Seattle. That's awesome. Then the Friday, we're coming over to our house. And then the week after that, I'm going to Civo Navigate.
Ooh,
so that's to be in Tampa. And then the week after that, doing Disney World. And then I think after that, then it's all clear. So next week is good, but the next 3 weeks are, I don't know, possible.
All right. We'll plan it. We'll make a schedule for our avid viewers.
Yes, all 3 of them. Yeah.
What's funny is YouTube.
I think you've got an in with your mother. Be able to let her know. Yeah.
That's right. I think she may have this.
That's a third of our audience.
Views tend to be pretty big, but yeah, the ones while we're streaming, definitely.
No. Well, I think part of the problem is that we don't ourselves don't know that we're going to do it more than like 5 minutes in advance. Yeah.
Exactly. We'll get better, folks. We're still early days.
Yeah, we will. Theoretically.
Yeah. I mean, can't get worse. No, this is fantastic. It's always good to catch up with you. I always learn something new. Thank you so much for hosting me.
Yeah, thank you. All right, let's find that stop button.
Oh, where'd it go?